We're back with another episode of Forgotten Bellwood, and we have Mr. Tim Mercer with us again. And we are up in the Forgotten Classroom above the stage, and he's going to tell us about it.
Thanks, Maya. What we're in, as we referred to this, is the kind of the hidden or the missing forgotten classroom. And on the side of the steps where we had to come up over a ladder, there was at one time actually a set of stairs that gave you access to this classroom. And I am aware back in the 1980s, mid-1980s, that this was actually used for special education classes. If you actually look behind me, you can see the original chalkboards that were used when this was a classroom.
So, it's full of like props now from old shows, but it was only this big. Like, this is all of it.
Well, there's a temporary wall that was built here. Now there's air handlers behind that. But at one point in time, this was all one.
Oh, okay. So this wall's new.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I kind of want to see what's back there, just because it's like, kind of scary.
But you can see now what this is used for is storage of props from high school musicals over the years.
Yeah.
Now, after the special education classes were moved from here, what my understanding is, it was then used for other club activities, including fly fish tying.
So like clubs could come up here and use it as like a free space?
That's what I understand, yes.
Cool. All right. There you go.
Okay, we're now standing on the other end of this forgotten room above the stage. And you can see back here, this wall is not original. This was built to actually house behind it all of the air handlers, which is the air conditioning and heat systems for the auditorium. But if you really pay attention, you look at the floorboards, you can see the hardwood floor runs straight through there to show that this was actually one large classroom. And now I want to take you inside where the air handlers are, because there's actually some really interesting artifacts from our school from years gone by.
We're now on the other side of the temporary wall, and there's some interesting stuff back here for Tim to explain, so go ahead.
Thanks, Maya. Down here to my right, you can see this is actually one of the original auditorium chairs. When it was remodeled back in 1963, these were the chairs that were placed in. And again, my understanding is during the remodel of the auditorium in 2006, this chair was removed, and they've saved that up here as an artifact.
So when we first climbed up the ladder, we were just kind of like meandering around, and I just walked through here and I found this, and I was a little freaked out, but we stood here and talked about it. We don't know whether it was used for the special education classes or if it was used in a play, so it's just kind of sitting here.
Hey, one final thing I want to show you. While we were up here in the back side of this forgotten room, we found a door. We're not sure exactly where this goes to, but when we open it, there's a solid wall right behind it. It only allows us to open a couple inches. We're told two things. That first of all, it may have actually led to another room that was torn down during the construction in the mid-80s, or it was led to a stairwell that also had access to this room. One more area that's not very well known by most folks here at Bellwood, and it's a mechanical room that sits above the lobby of the auditorium. Now, Maya, where we're standing right now is actually a mechanical room that sits above the lobby of the auditorium. You can see there's some air handlers for the air conditioning and heat for the auditorium, and also some shelving that they store different mechanical parts for the components up here, the air conditioners. But what I think is really interesting is if you look at the walls, you'll see where people have wrote their names that have come up here. And we have found There's a lot of 1972s, but around the back of this wall, we actually found 1963 and 1964. So this is almost like a forgotten yearbook for Bellwood, that students through the decades have somehow found their way up here and wrote their names up here as a memorial.
So you're saying they snuck up here?
They would have snuck up here because our doors are normally locked down there, but there are some access points that you can come up over. And to the back side of this mechanical room, you can see a doorway. And through that doorway, there is a small ladder that goes up a half of a story, and it gives you access to, there's a crawl space above the ceiling of the auditorium. And what they utilize that area for is to work on the air conditioning, ductwork, and also the spotlights that shine down onto the stage. So there's actually catwalks above the auditorium that you can get across.
Can we go see it?
Yes, we can. Okay, Maya, where we're at now is a small portion of this larger room that gives us access through this ladder to that crawl space through this trap door of the auditorium. But what I wanted to do too is just bring your attention to this wall. You can see there's another example of what I was talking about, this forgotten yearbook at Bellwood. Draw your attention right here. We got John H. He was a wingback, so he was a football player, and his number was number 27, and he signed it back in 1965. So again, you can see on all these walls around me, all the folks that have been here before and signed their names. So if you want, we'll go ahead up this ladder and give you a shot of what it looks like in that crawl space above the auditorium.
Tim,
Yeah,
what is that up there?
Up above us, what you're looking at would be the original ceiling when this was built back in the 30s.
Oh, that's so cool. So that's like one of the beams.
This would be one of the original beams. You can see the brick on it and all the mortar coming out through it.
Yeah.
Okay, Maya, where we're standing right now is an old office to the side of the auditorium. And this originally was used as the transportation office. There was a day when Bellwood actually owned their own buses. And that was probably went up until the early 2000s. So the individual that oversaw the buses and all the bus routes actually worked out of this office.
So, kids didn't come in and out of here.
This was an actual operating office of the transportation director.
Cool. What's down here, Tim?
Maya, down here, this is actually the entrance to the football locker room. There's actually a lot of history with that locker room as well.